Welcome, everybody. This is the first 2021 Legislative Roundtable for Stand Up Michigan. We're going to be holding these regularly because we feel it's very important for both our legislature to be able to talk to us about what's going on, ongoing legislation. And there's so much that happened with the election in 2020 and what's transpiring now. We know a lot of you want to hear it. And if you don't get a chance to see this live, make sure you share this with other people afterwards so that they can keep up. We're going to have on both House members and Senate members and other people that are interested in issues that need to be dealt with on a state level and a federal level. And so, but what we wanted to start out with is just spending just a couple of minutes talking about the successes that we did have at the end of the year and not just what happened in the election with Trump. So, Tammy, why don't you talk on that just a bit before we get things rolling?
Yeah, hello, everybody. It's great to be here with you this morning. Thank you for those of you who are joining. You may want to share this with others and let everybody know this is something that we're going to be doing throughout 2021. And I just wanted to thank Matt Maddock.
Oh, and Tammy's frozen.
And I really wanted to focus on, first of all, the wins that we've had, because we're all feeling a little bit down. There's been some big losses, and we all know that. But I wanted to focus on the wins, and we wanted to focus on positivity moving forward and what we have done and what we are going to do working together. So we held the House. We worked very hard with Jason Wentworth and some within the legislature behind the scenes on those district races that we know were tier 1 races, critical races. We knew in order to get the 1945 petition initiative done and through, passed, and that law repealed, that we were going to have to hold the House. And we did. You all did that. We activated you to get involved in those campaigns, door knocking and passing out flyers and things like that. And even those within the legislature got busy helping each other in those tight races. So we did that, and we did hold the House. So that's really exciting. And so we know that we're going to get this 1945 law passed. Now that we are past the election, we can really focus on holding Jocelyn Benson's feet to the fire, and we are doing that. So we know that this year that 1945 law will be repealed as well. So that's a huge win. And I did want to address that real quickly because I've had a lot of people say, it doesn't matter. The Supreme Court made that law unconstitutional, so it doesn't matter. What did we really do? We did all this work for nothing. But let me tell you, we had said all along, it is very, very important that we get this law repealed because this particular Supreme Court ruled that it is illegal. It's unconstitutional in its entirety. However, we had said all along, if we lose the Supreme Court, which we did, what's to prevent a future court from overturning the previous court's ruling? And we've already heard there are legislators out there, Democrat legislators, that are already flirting with the idea of just
and frozen.
Oh, was I frozen?
Yep.
It's very important that we do get that law off the books, and we will. So that's another win. And I'm very excited about the incoming freshman class of representatives because they are probably the most conservative group I have seen within the legislature. Now, I obviously have not met all of them yet, but I'm making it a very intentional and purposeful point to sit down with each of them and just reach out to them from myself and on behalf of Stand Up Michigan to let them know that we want to work with them. We want to offer our platform for them to be able to communicate and hopefully work together to get some great things done. And we're going to talk about some of these initiatives within this program here with Steve Cara, some of the things we hope to do together moving forward that I think that you guys will all just love.
Well, thank you, Tammy. And we want to thank especially Matt and Steve for joining us today. We have a freshman in Steve who's been very active, and Matt who's been in the trenches and has fought for us almost like no other. We wanted to be able to hear from both sides because they're going to be working together. And I want to hear a little bit about the leadership, the new leadership in the House as well. But let's get right to it. Let's start with you, Matt. Let's talk about election integrity. We had you on before when we were dealing with some of these issues, but why don't you touch on both what you know is happening in regard to the follow-up or follow-through in both Antrim County and other election fraud issues, and then let's follow that up directly with what we think the Oversight Committee is going to be dealing with in regard to election integrity issues going forward.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Ron and Tammy, for providing this platform. Going forward, this is going to be a critical part of keeping us all together. We have Steve Johnson, who is heading up this committee, and he's tough, man. Steve Johnson is one digger. It's like when my kids were young, my wife Michelle and I always used to talk about our kids' digger finger when they're 18 months old. They pick them up and they start digging in your face. That's what Steve Johnson is. He's going to be a real digger, and I'm looking forward to everything he's going to be doing.
Great. So some of the issues that people want to know about again are there any update on the Antrim County forensic audit or anything in regard to that the legislature is hearing about or moving on in any way, shape, or form?
I don't know about details about the actual audit itself, but I do know that the House is gathering information. We are using our subpoena power. And we are gathering a ton of information right now. I think that's the focus.
So speaking of subpoena power, you subpoenaed the Secretary of State, and she basically declined. What are your avenues that you have to be able to get information from her, since neither she or the governor seems to need to respond to anybody?
I don't want to speak for Steve Johnson, but I think that's probably a question that he needs to answer himself personally.
Okay.
But I'm hoping that we're going to continue to pursue that and get what we demand.
Okay, great. Anything you have to add on that, Steve, of what you've heard, or?
No, I haven't heard anything too much directly about Antrim County, but just echoing what Matt said there.
We've only had a couple days worth of session, and
yeah, I know,
we're just getting started. So
yeah,
it's going to take a little bit of time, I think. But Steve Johnson is the head of that committee, and he's.
That's great. The main thing that I wanted to make sure of again was that we did have a plan in place. As you know, the people are very angry, and what we've been saying is, look, we've got to give it some time. That they want things done right now. I don't think they understand the legislative agenda, but that's why we hold these calls, is to be able to communicate with them of what the plan is. So let us know what it is that you're dealing with both in these first few days. I know you've done some great things. I've seen some things posted about tying some of this budget issues and not releasing some of this. So tell us a little about that.
Well, I'm excited about our new leadership. Jason Wentworth is a fighter. Can I say that word? Can I say the word fighter?
Yeah, you can say that.
They're going to accuse me of inciting riots because I said the word fight. No, Wentworth is a fighter, and Chair Alberts, he's one tough chair, I tell you. We've had a couple committee hearings, and things that he's done during the committee hearings have been very, very encouraging.
Good. Now you've had just a couple of days in there, Steve. What's your impression of what you've been seeing? I mean, you came in with guns ablazes, as all freshmen do, with going to change the world. And we've had a couple of days. But what kind of feedback have you had, and how do you feel about where we're headed?
So far, so good. We definitely have a lot of work left to do, and like you've been mentioning, we're looking at using the power of the purse budget process moving forward as a tool, because the governor's continually, obviously, working unilaterally, and she doesn't have that authority, but she's going to be serving it. So we have the power of the purse. We're going to make sure we stay really strong with that. I'm also very optimistic. The last term, the leadership was very much more centralized their power, but Jason Wentworth is definitely giving more of a voice to the caucus, and we're all having, input on things. So I'm excited about where things are at, and yeah, like Matt was saying, we've got the appropriations chair, Thomas Albert. He's doing a good job so far, and want to make sure that we use the purse very, very strategically and strongly.
I don't want to get any false hopes up for anyone. We have to be completely honest with ourselves here. We still have Gretchen Whitmer as our governor, and she can veto anything we put on her desk. I don't think the Democrats are going to do anything that's going to make cheating any more difficult for them. So I don't know if we're going to get some of these bills passed. I'm hoping we're going to put them on her desk. It's very likely we actually may have to do another ballot initiative to get our voting back the way it should be. We have all these absentee voting applications being sent out. You may get 10 or 15 to one house, and there may only be 3 people that live there, but we don't know if people actually sent them in and voted. So we have a lot of questions. There's a lot of data out there that we need to get our hands on. But going forward, all the people listening out there, like Tammy said, it is a miracle that we retain the House. I mean, that is key. And if you were out there knocking doors or supporting a candidate financially, We need to all stay on the same page. There's talk about people going to a third party, but that is not the solution, ladies and gentlemen. We need to stick together. The Republican Party is like a giant cruise ship, and for many, many years, the grassroots didn't really have a voice on that ship. We were not really even on the deck of that ship, but now we're on the deck, and we have people in the pilot house of that ship right now. So we are in a great position to move forward. We just need to stick together.
Yeah, and I want to add something quickly to that too. For those you don't know, Matt Maddock got ranked the most conservative state representative in Michigan last term. Very grateful for you to be that conservative, Matt. It's a good work with that. But for those of you who maybe don't have as conservative as a state representative, I'd still encourage you to vote for them in the general election. If that's who comes out of the primary, vote for them in the general election, because you may not have Matt Maddock as your state representative, but Matt and I and others who are strong conservatives, honestly, would rather have those rhinos in there with us than Democrats. So that's what primaries are for if necessary. But come general election, we need to continue to remember to get out and vote for our Republicans.
And I'm excited. This new incoming freshman class, we've got 13 new incoming freshmen, and they're all great conservative people. I've spent time with almost every single one of them. And, we have a great conservative house. We are going to be fighting back against Gretchen. And I'm really excited over the next couple of years. We need to basically keep putting things on her desk and let her veto whatever she wants to veto. But the people are going to be watching that.
Yeah, and I see some comments on here, Tammy. I know you've been watching them too, and I do want you to know that for those of you out there, look, a lot of us have been below deck. A lot of the base of the Republican Party has been inactive for years, if not decades. And when I say inactive, I mean not active in meaning besides keyboard warrior. And we've actually risen up this last year and done amazing things together. Yes. And now we are literally coming in, and our voices are being, first they were forced to being heard last year. Then as we got into fall, they told us, we're going to lose the House. We got to limit our losses. And we were like, you don't need to lose anything if we just continue to get busy. And sure enough, we did that. I don't think they've begun to see even a little bit of what the grassroots of Michigan is going to do, especially with the anger and frustration that happened in the November election.
It's like, our nation, we've always kind of had the odds stacked against us. I was up at my cabin fundraising last week, and I watched a John Wayne movie called The Searchers, okay? And when John Wayne and his band of people were surrounded by the Indians on both sides in that valley, did he give up? No, he didn't give up. Did Buck Travis give up in the Alamo? No, we never give up. That's what our nation is. Our nation is a bunch of people. We're a John Wayne nation, not an Adam Schiff nation, and we are not giving up. And if you're out there, and I've heard people out there saying, "Oh, I'm just going to walk away from the party." There's close friends of mine that have said, "I'm not going to get involved in politics anymore. I'm done for the next several years. Who knows how long?" Don't do it. Do not give up. I'm not giving up. Steve's not giving up. We're not giving up. So you can't give up either, because for every soldier that is out there fighting on the front line, like Steve and I will be, we need 1,000 people behind us, providing us with everything we need to keep fighting, to keep us healthy, keep us fed, keep ammunition in our guns. We need every possible person behind us, standing behind us right now, because we are in a battle right now, and we're going to win this.
Yeah, and I want to jump in and just say, we really appreciate you guys. We know that you have been feeling maybe like islands in the sea, because you are a very conservative, true representative of the grassroots of the people, right? But for all of those people out there saying, no, I'm not voting again, I'm done. I'm seeing some of the comments, until we get a clear plan on how to fight this election fraud. That's what we're doing here. That's the whole point of this legislative roundtable, to bring these legislators.
Like I said, we may not do it the next 2 years with her as governor, okay?
Yes.
But
yes.
We can't give up. We always need to keep pushing back. And if you're out there thinking about giving up, don't do it. If you have friends or family that have said they're giving up, don't do it. Have them call me. I'll talk them back in.
Yeah. And I've said that many times on my lives that I've done, that the number one tactic of the enemy is to take you out by wearing you down. If he can wear you down, you're tired, you're exhausted, you feel hopeless, you give up. Well, then they win. You're right. That is never an option. Giving up and surrendering is never an option. That's weak.
Yep.
So we appreciate what you're doing, Matt and Stephen, and Ron and I have encouraged the legislators that we've had on previously. Look, even if you are submitting legislation that you know she's going to veto. Well, that's your job. Do your job, right? Write the
Right.
legislation, make her veto it, get it on record, but we still have to move forward.
Yep.
That's exactly right, and the people expect that to be done. I also will be working on a national basis. I've been in contact with other state Republican legislatures that are passing some resolutions. We know again where those will go, but the important thing is there are some of those. This HR 1 thing that Biden is putting forward, there are 3 or 4 pieces of legislation that could be devastating. And the fact is, we have sovereignty in our state of Michigan. The Constitution guarantees that our state controls our own elections. And there are some things that we need to do to solidify the fact that our state is going to continue to follow the Constitution, and we will hold and control our own elections at all levels. After all, that's what the Supreme Court said all along, is other states couldn't get involved. The federal court shouldn't get involved because it's up to the states. Well, now you don't flip the gun and say, okay, now we're in charge, so we're going to switch it to where we want all these federal elections to be run. And it's a devastating, this HR 1. There's a lot in it, but I will be working along with some of the leadership in both the House and Senate to make sure that we can maybe pass some of this legislation again, put them on notice at a federal level. And we got to continue to put her on notice. What happens when we vote on things that she's not going to, or that she is going to veto, is we at least have a platform to get out and speak to the people and explain why we're doing it. You build strength through that, which is why you pass those. You don't do it because, well, what's the point? That's not why you're there. You're there to pass what's important. Let her veto it. It's all the more reason to get rid of her in 2022.
Yeah, I want to say another thing also. You know, all too often, many of us, including myself, have got caught up in the whole DC thing. You know, we're all too often paying attention to everything that's happening in a city 632 miles to the east of us called DC, right? What we're not doing is pay attention to what's happening in our own backyard. And I would encourage more people to get involved in local politics too. We're going to be putting on a push to one of our problems is we don't have enough candidates to run for a lot of these local offices. For example, here in this district right here, my school district, Huron Valley School District, this is a very conservative area, okay? Basically, it's a Republican district, the whole school district. However, every single one of our school district board members are complete Democrats, okay? We need people to step up, to run for office, to say, I will run for office. We have the tools necessary to help the person win, and we need to start asking people to run for office. Marion Sheridan, who is running for Grassroots vice chair again, I just did a nomination speech for her and let people know that I wouldn't be in Lansing if she hadn't taken the time to call me to meet with my wife and I for coffee. And she basically asked me to run for office. We all need to do that. We need to find people who have the time to do it. And it doesn't take much time to run for a lot of these local school boards or library boards either. But we need people to step up and say, here I am, take me. I'm going to do this, because if we don't start doing that, they are kicking our butts at the local level. And a lot of these people start at the local level. They work themselves up to the state level also.
That's right. And we are seeing some very encouraging things. Ron and I were at a meeting in Muskegon with a group of patriots, grassroots patriots that just get together once a month. And I think there was probably 100 people in that barn. And they were very good, strong leaders who are organizing, and they have pretty much taken all over Dalton Township. They've gotten 2 very conservative people on the city council.
Right.
City council, I think.
County Commission.
And they are taking back what was given away by our lack of involvement and our apathy over the past however many years, decades. So we're starting to see it. We're starting to see people stand up and say enough is enough, and that's what it's going to take.
Absolutely.
So what else, what are you guys passionate about? Let's talk about each of you. Let's start with you, Steve. I know everybody, when they run for office, kind of has a background of saying, I'm passionate about X. This is what got me involved. We heard a little bit about literally somebody recruiting Matt, Marion, who's, again, an incredible grassroots leader. And that's the reason. Those kind of people are the reason that we're moving forward in grassroots leadership in the state of Michigan. And those people will either follow along or they'll get replaced. That's the way it's going to be, because we are the active people here in Michigan. So, Steve, you joined and decided to run, but you're passionate about a specific cause. So I wanted to give you a little bit of time to talk about that.
Oh yeah, the Harpy bill, I guess, is what you might be talking about. The
Yeah.
pro-life Harpy bill. Certainly, like the repeal 1945 petition that we did last year, we can get signatures. It takes 340,047 valid signatures, and that puts it to a vote of the people at the next general election. So this is a very formal petition drive. There's online petitions that float around all the time, which don't have the weight of one of these formal ones. These are hard copies. They're in person. They're very formal. Those of you who participated in repeal 1945 know how it works. You need to be very careful and meticulous with getting the signatures. You get enough signatures, goes to vote of people at the next general election in a simple majority, and we win. Now, but in Michigan, we have a special unique opportunity, as many of you already know, where the House and Senate can adopt a petition drive. With a simple majority, which we have a pro-life majority in the House and Senate right now, we can adopt a petition drive, and instead of it going to a vote of the people, it's enacted right there. Governor can't veto it. So these petition drives are a way for us to circumvent the governor and get these things done. So there are ways. It takes time, energy, blood, sweat, tears, resources, effort on our part. But the nice thing is it's in our hands. We can do these things. I know there's a certain level of frustration, but Tammy was touching on that earlier with the repeal 1945, that the Secretary of State is dragging her feet on that. Well, she can only drag her feet so long. By the end of it's around May or June of next year, she has a deadline because it has to be done prior to the next general election, where she has to have that finished. So at that point, the legislature can adopt it. I'm looking forward to voting in support of that. So.
Terrific.
I still have a lot of people asking me and texting me and emailing me about what happened with the recall Whitmer petition drive. People don't realize that it takes a ton of money to do a successful petition drive. I mean, the Unlock Michigan spent between $3 to $4 million. At one time, they were spending $200,000 a week. It takes a ton of money to run these petition drives. The recall Gretchen Whitmer petition, it's not going. I mean, just to be honest, it's not going to happen. She's not going to get recalled. We're going to have to deal with her for the next 2 years. But you know what? When she's up for re-election, we're gonna win.
Matt, can I ask, because people have been asking about the recall and the impeachment, so thank you for bringing that up, and for answering that honestly. People just don't understand behind the scenes. But I do also want to ask you about the impeachment, because you were, I believe, the one who introduced the impeachment, correct?
It was actually Bo LaFave introduced the impeachment resolution.
Yes.
I went public shortly before he introduced the resolution, and that kind of lit the fuse.
So where does that stand? And can you just let everybody know what is going on with the impeachment? Is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? So people understand where we're at with that.
You know what? Our previous speaker, Lee Chatfield, was not fond of holding impeachment hearings. I disagreed with him. I think even if we didn't have the votes in the Senate to impeach her, I think it would have been wise, just as the Democrats are holding hearings against Trump, I think it would have been wise on our behalf to hold impeachment hearings in the House to basically expose what she's done to our state, and have people testify that have lost loved ones in these nursing homes, and just to expose what she's unwilling to release. What is the science? I have restaurant owners calling me and saying, I can't even open at 25% because I'll lose more money. I'm actually I'm losing less money by keeping my restaurant closed and the heat down. If I open to 25%, I'll actually lose more money. So my question to a lot of these restaurant owners is, what is the science behind 25% or 50%? Because a lot of the restaurant owners could actually break even at 50%. Okay. So why is 25% the number, not 50%? Show us your cards. Show us your cards, Governor Whitmer. Show us why 25% makes sense, but 50% doesn't. It's crazy.
I agree with that. And I have to say, going back to the impeachment conversation, it is about the hearings. It is about exposing her and her administration for what they've done. One of the big questions that we had going into this call today from yesterday was someone who made the comment that it has now been close to 11 months since they have been able to visit their loved one in a nursing home. Now, I have got to tell you, there is absolutely zero reason that this should be allowed to continue. Literally, why can't they be tested? If they're negative, they can go visit. It's no different than getting on an airplane or anything else or going to work. The fact is, this is craziness. I don't know what they're covering up, but the fact is, we have to, literally, we have to be able to have these people be interacting. It's like we have washed them aside and pushed them aside. It's like they are they're supposedly the most vulnerable. They're the people we should be caring and taking care of the most. And yet we literally have, while we're so-called saving lives in her mind, we have destroyed and killed thousands of Michiganders. And I believe that is the biggest crime, and I call it a crime, that happened throughout this country, but especially in Michigan too, that needs to be exposed. We need to have hearings to say, why was the hospital association, why were these people allowed to be put into as positive patients? And by the way, they weren't even all seniors that were put into these. It wasn't like they were left in these homes. They were placed in homes that didn't have cases. They were shipped around the state and put into homes where we didn't hardly have any cases. And people died because of it. And we need to know when there were adequate facilities that could have been and would have been able to take these patients. Why did we choose to do this? Those questions simply have to be answered.
And I want to ask before you guys jump in, I want to ask on behalf of your constituents, because they're asking us, why doesn't the legislature do something about this? This is considered cruel and unusual punishment, this isolation. You don't put somebody even in a prison or in the military in solitary confinement because it's considered cruel and unusual punishment. So why are we allowing this? Is there anything the legislature can do? Can you speak on that?
Well,
I think
that's
we've
a lot of.
go ahead.
I think that's a lot of where it's at and why we should have these proceedings, like Matt was saying. She's usurped all this power. The nursing homes is a great example of what to bring to the forefront. But it's not just that she's making bad decisions, it's that it's an abuse of power, right? If she was making perfect decisions and making the best decisions possible for Michigan, but she's doing it unilaterally, it would still be an abuse of power, right? We think she's making terrible decisions, and she is making terrible decisions. But for her to have it found unconstitutional for her to do it unilaterally herself, and then she has her Department of Health and Human Services, that statute from 1978 she's using, it says that if the director of DHHS determines an epidemic exists, they determine it, then they can grant themselves unlimited power to prohibit the gathering of people for any purpose. That's clearly not a constitutional statute. So that public act that was enacted into law back in 1978, yes, it was a very long public act, and that one little statute within it is clearly unconstitutional. They made a mistake. But to actually be applying that clearly erroneous statute is an abuse of power. And to me, it's an impeachable offense that you'd even have the audacity to consider operating under that statute.
It absolutely is.
Here we are.
Let's talk about the. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Let's talk about the cruel and unusual punishment with our children right now. I mean,
yes,
we have children committing suicide at a rate we've never seen before. We have children and our kids staying at home. I mean, what do kids do when mom and dad aren't home all day? I mean, there's all kinds of trouble they can get into, and that's happening to our kids right now. There's no reason why this school district right here, Huron Valley School District, shouldn't be open. We have school districts throughout the whole state of Michigan that have been open, remained open, yet we have these Democrat-controlled school districts that are keeping our kids at home and punishing them. And there's consequences. I mean, drug use is up. Kids are suicide. I mean, that is cruel and that is cruel punishment too. So we need to get our kids back to school. That needs to be part of the focus. And all these kids out there that are going to be losing scholarships because they can't participate in sports. This is insane. We need parents to push back. We have a handful of parents over here in this school district that are, thank God, they're starting to get organized and pushing back.
You're right. And we've been saying that all along. Until these parents stand up in mass and go in there and demand that these schools open and demand that they allow their kids to breathe freely, this is not going to change. So what can you, I want to ask you about what's going on in the Wisconsin legislature right now. And what can you guys do as legislators to stop this? Because as you know, in the Wisconsin House, they passed a resolution saying that obviously an emergency is not indefinite, right? There's no such thing as an indefinite emergency. Right. Therefore, none of this is valid. And so why can't you guys do something like that legislatively?
I'd love to do something like that. You know, the original statute was designed to, for example, if a plant that produces chemicals blew up and there was a cloud moving over the southeast Michigan, you know, kind of a regional thing. That's really what it's designed to do. It's not designed to keep a whole state under lockdown for the next 3 years. And that's what the Democrats are going to do. Don't be surprised when they claim that this thing is morphed into different strings of virus, and they're going to say it's even more deadly and more, you know, it's horrible, right? That's what they're going to say. And they're going to lock us down. They're going to keep us locked down for the next 4 years, guys. That's my prediction.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying with the legislature. If you guys pass laws saying that this is not an emergency, therefore all of this that they're relying on
but
is
what they're going to do
ineffective.
is that it'll be taken to court. Okay, our Supreme Court in Michigan is a bunch of Democrats now. They're just going to same thing happen. We've seen it play out time after time after time. They take it to the courts. They legislate through the courts, and maybe it goes to the Supreme Court. But maybe that'll take a year. I mean, we're in a bad situation. But you know,
and that's true, and that's okay. That's true.
We're all being held hostage by our government. That's what's happening. The Democrats are holding us all hostage.
We totally agree, and we see it coming. We know what they're doing. We see the playbook. We just want to know that our legislators are fighting for us, doing everything you can do, even if they do hold it up. Well, at least you're in there fighting for us and doing what you can.
You know what? I would encourage everyone to reach out to your legislators, get to know them, let them know that you have their back, okay? Because we're going to be under a lot of pressure. We already are, okay? Because people are saying, do something, do something, do something. A lot of people don't realize that doing something requires her to sign it, okay? And she, you know, Gretchen Whitmer is a different animal, okay? She doesn't communicate with the legislature at all. I think she just had her first conversation with leadership just a couple of days ago. But you know, she's one heck of a strategist.
You can bet, Matt, that she wants something, or she wouldn't be talking to you now. So she's aware that this COVID funding and this other funding is coming, and she wants something.
She wants more money, and thank
That's
God,
right.
Chair Albert didn't give her the whole $4 billion. We only gave her about a quarter of what she wanted. Okay?
Now, you notice, by the way, she created this commission about vaccinations, and she put this giant commission together with all these so-called organizations. She used the word bipartisan because Brian Calley is involved, and I think it's the only name I saw on the entire list on there that I would think of as a so-called bipartisan in her mind. But she literally has targeted every liberal organization from Planned Parenthood to AFL-CIO to whatever and she's going to be funneling money to all of these organizations. And that's what they're doing with these federal funds. They're passing them through, and the governors are appropriating some of these for ridiculous uses that are, again, she's doing it in the name of safety and in the name of healthcare and security, but they're not being spread out safely. The other thing I want to talk about with schools is, look, this whole situation with the schools has got to end. Kids do not get the virus for the most part. They found that if they're asymptomatic, it's been proven they don't pass it. This has been craziness, and it is time for us to get the kids, at least the kids, back to school. Now, what you've got right now is we agreed, as you know, the past legislature agreed to utilize the counts from 2019 in order for them to continue to get their full pay. We didn't lay off any teachers. They got their full benefits. I'm not saying anything against those teachers that want to go to work, but there's a lot of teachers in a lot of districts that would just as soon stay home, using the word that we're in fear, forever. But yet, what do? We see them on vacation. We see them traveling at the holidays, but they can't go to their own classroom.
And the school districts right now, I've heard this like 8 times. They are flush with cash. They're getting so much money. I mean, I've heard they're like getting like $18,000 per student. I mean, we could hire personal tutor for almost every single student in Michigan right now with the kind of money they're getting right now, and they're not working. They're staying home. And you know, a lot of these kids are. You know, they have a Zoom call, you know, once or twice a week. And this is a bad situation. We need to start fighting back. Parents need to start fighting back.
Yeah,
right
and
now.
there are a lot of districts, and there's a lot of teachers that are wanting to go back to work.
Yes.
Like you said, there's a lot of school boards that are made up of a bunch of liberals who are simply saying, we're fearful. We're going to just stay home for the rest of the school year, and then we may have to look at a different model for teaching in the future. I mean, literally, we have people in these crazy thoughts, and yet around the world, we have absolute proof, data, science that those that have gone back to school without masks around our own country, we have it. Yep. Dozens of states are doing it safely, and there is no reason Michigan can't do it the same.
Yep. Hey, Tammy, I had a question for you. I heard we had a state representative, a Democrat. His name is David LeGrand. He actually wears I think it's a respirator and a face shield, and I think he wears a bulletproof vest in the House floor too. Steve's laughing; he knows what I'm talking about. And I heard yesterday that he was in a committee meeting. I think it was Steve Johnson's committee meeting, and he was handing out paperwork to the other representatives. And while he was handing out paperwork, there was like spit or something dripping out of his mask. Does that make sense? I mean, I actually, when I snowmobile, I have one of those respirator deflectors, and that thing gets packed with, I mean, I have to literally take off my mask and drain the condensation out of it. This guy's wearing this mask all over the House floor, and it's like dripping snot all over the place. It's crazy.
So I saw this. Somebody actually posted a picture, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what in the heck am I even looking at here? It was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. So he's like
dripping stuff out of his mask onto people's arms and their hands and the desks in the Capitol on the House floor. It's crazy.
And he's not wearing it. I mean, it's a true respirator. That's the thing. That's not even a mask. It's a true respirator. He's not been fitted or trained, and he doesn't know what the heck he's doing. And
he's dribbling spit all over the House floor.
So somebody posed the question yesterday, because I just did an interview yesterday with Daniel Horowitz of The Blaze, and we talked a lot about this nonsense, right? And so then after I was done with that interview, I hopped on Facebook and I saw that picture of him, and I'm like, perfect example of what I'm talking about here. So somebody posted a quick question and said, who's his boss? Because he should be fired. And I'm like, well, he works for the state. I mean, he works for the people. The people is his boss. But there's so much that's wrong with that picture. I had to laugh out of disgust, of course. How gross.
Yeah.
He's increasing the spread.
Yeah, he's a real piece of work. He also wants to get rid of all bail in Michigan too. He's the person behind that.
Oh, jeez.
The one thing that I've heard also is these businesses that had to choose, and I'm talking about the bowling centers, the restaurants, some roller skating rinks that have literally been shut down for 8 of the last 10 months or 11 months. It's been a disaster for them and their families. And I just read 2 stories just this morning of one that got a county grant and literally allowed them to stay open because today was their deadline in their mind, or tomorrow, of deciding if they were going to shut their doors forever. People with 3rd and 4th generation businesses that haven't been able to operate. And then this whole new rule of February 1st and 25%, but you still can't serve this, and a curfew time, and all this absolute lunacy that's going on. But some of them have stood up.
What do we have? Like 3 deaths yesterday? I mean, less than 1,000 new COVID cases, and they're testing everyone. They're testing everyone 10 times a week right now. It's like,
yeah, it is. And it's like we say, if you did get on a plane or you crossed over the border, you could be with anybody you wanted in Indiana, or you can go to Wisconsin where they had 15,000 people in the stands of the football game. But you come to Michigan, and I guess we're supposed to all clam up still.
Michigan's North Korea, guys. That's what they want. They want Michigan to be North Korea. They want us to be North Korea on our outside. They want clouds all day long, and they want us to feel like we're in North Korea.
Well, they are about the great news is, and I hate to pivot from all of this, but the great news is that in 2 more years, and less than 2 years, Gretchen is going to be replaced, and it is important that all of us be on exactly the same path.
Yep.
We have to work together on issues between now and then. We have to volunteer and raise up a group of people to serve on school boards, county commissions, city councils, township boards, whatever it might be. And then we have to identify people who are willing to maybe give up a couple of years to be able to go serve in the House and replace some of these both Democrats. Let's not forget about the Democrats. We keep talking about the rhinos. There are a lot of Democrats that are vulnerable because, as you know, 72 counties out of 83 voted in favor of liberty and freedom, and did not vote for these lockdowns. So that means a lot of these districts that even went to Democrats for some reason never, ever should be able to have to go there again. And if they continue to vote for these lockdowns and the destruction of our individual rights and liberties and constitutional rights, we literally are going to have to, we're going to have to rise up people to defeat them. And I believe we have the army to do that. I do. I use the word army. Okay. But I do believe we have a conservative grassroots group. I also believe that the leadership of the Republican Party in Michigan is changing. The platform looks to be grassroots based, connected with the grassroots, meaning they're going to not only be listening, but they're going to be taking a direction and rising people up through the grassroots. We're already here. And I think it's vital that all of you get on board, sign up for these county chapters. If you go to our homepage, you can see Stand Up Counties. Sign up there. We're going to be meeting by county and region so that we can be activated for a number of things. But understand, it's going to be to help and care for your community, shop local, be able to help get your school board moving, move your own area forward. And then across the state, we're going to have we're going to move a mountain this next year and a half, because Benson is up, Nessel is up. These three disastrous people in office have all got to be replaced. And we've got to identify people that can get in there and do a better job and that are electable. And then we've got to go get them elected. And that's going to happen quicker than you think.
Yeah. I want to say something else also that people need to realize, okay? And Speaker Wentworth spoke about this briefly. There's a tremendous push by the left and social media and all these social media giants to demonize Republicans. And we've already seen it. We've already seen shaming when it comes to donating to Republicans, etc. So it's going to be harder for Republicans to raise money, because a lot of the money that we raise doesn't come just from individuals. It comes from PACs and corporate money also, okay? So a lot of these corporations and PACs and people with deep pockets are not going to be donating to Republicans, okay? So it is going to be very important for people listening to the grassroots to actually, write checks to Republicans, because we're going to need a lot of money to keep winning. And if we lose in Michigan, if we lose $1 million in the House, for example, I mean, that's a tremendous amount of money. We're going to have to make up for that. So, it means one thing to go out and knock on doors or make phone calls to a campaign to keep us fed and keep us going. But people need to start throwing money at us, because that's something we're going to need too. And money is everything in politics. It's protection.
And those are the calls to action that we can do, because we're not just about educating, right? We're also about activating. And so those are the things we need to hear, that we need to help to educate the citizenry about, so that they know what to do. How can we get involved? Not just serving of our time, but also of our resources.
Yes.
So these are good things to be communicating with your constituents and all the citizens of Michigan, because if you guys don't communicate, we don't know, right? They come to us and then we say, well, we can't speak for them. We don't really know what's going on. So it's great to communicate things like this.
Thank God you guys are doing what you're doing. You guys are doing such a great job. And I'm just so appreciative of everything you guys are doing, because we can't do this alone, because we just can't. We need people like you standing up and educating people and having our backs, because we can't do any of this without people having our backs.
But
we can't do it without you.
No, but and I have to say though, Matt, that you guys are supposed to be representing us anyway, right? Which means we have to be vocal. We have to be out front. We have to tell you what we expect, and we have to get behind you when you make the right tough decisions. And that is happening now. I think that the grassroots in Michigan is going to be setting the stage. We're hearing it, by the way, all over the country. They are seeing both what Stand Up Michigan did with the Unlock campaign. They're seeing the grassroots leadership from around our state. They're seeing the change in this, and we're becoming a model for other states.
Yes.
We would never have maintained this House number without grassroots. It's impossible.
Yep.
I mean, between the fraud that already we know took place, but you throw that out, and we would have run the table. And I guarantee you, we're going to go back to supermajority membership in 2 more years. And we're going to find it with very strong conservatives, because these people that are there, that are borderline Republican, that are under our banner of being a Republican, they're going to either fall in line under their caucus, or they're going to get out of the way and leave, one or the other, because the grassroots has had it. We've had it with our inability to control our individual lives, our businesses, And I'll tell you another thing right now, for all of you out there that are involved in the church, you have got to get involved politically.
Yes.
It is time for churches to wake up, and we're going to make sure that happens. Our county chapters are going to churches. You need to defend your right for freedom of speech, for freedom of religion, for freedom of assembly. Those things not only were attempted to be taken away from you, but you were willing to give them up. It is time for you to stop with that. And instead, if indeed your groups of people and faith-based community gets behind this, take a look at the agenda and the executive orders that did come from DC that our governor is thrilled to pass along, from Planned Parenthood to all those issues that she has passed right now are disastrous for anybody who is a faith-based individual.
Yep.
It is time for us to rise up together. We have to do it now.
Yeah, and we know that the church is going to be key. And honestly, most of our grassroots people are people of faith. And so I'm actually going to be participating in a meeting on February 20th, where there is a huge coalition of churches. The Catholic churches have reached out to some of the other denominations, and they're trying to unite the churches to figure out a way to move forward and take back our morality, our ethical decision-making, put good people of leadership, faith-based people of leadership in position. And so we are seeing some really positive steps in the right direction as the people are standing up and saying enough is enough. And they're putting pressure on their religious leaders. And that's what has to happen.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about the future. You know, Obama gave us Trump, and I think Biden's going to give us another Trump. It may not be Donald Trump, who knows? But the positive things are, we're going to continue to fight. There's going to be more people realizing that they have a civic responsibility to get involved in politics. And this is a great nation. We're going to go forward. We're going to beat them. And I just want to have some fun doing it too. We have to have a little bit of fun out there, right? So
I like your attitude, Matt. I always say, hey, if you're not having fun, something's wrong. Now, this has not all been so fun. Let's be honest. But I agree with you.
No, but it's time to turn the tables on them. It's time for us to create and hold the platform and the narrative. And I don't care what they've got in media. The media will pay attention if the people are listening. And we're creating those platforms, and we're going to be talking face to face. You can do what you want with social media, but you're not going to stop and shut up the grassroots. It's just simply not happening. It's really ticked us off is what it's done, to the point where there isn't going to be any stopping us now. And Steve, what do you have in a closing remarks from you, and what your thoughts are going forward? I know you've got a lot on your mind, and I know you're fired up.
Yeah, I like what you all were talking about with the churches, and something somewhat similar to that I was thinking about a couple of weeks ago was the whole idea of not talking about religion and politics with friends and family. How does that sharpen our tools of knowledge? If we're always afraid to talk about Christianity, and we're always afraid to talk about the proper role of government, well, what's going to happen in terms of our strength of knowledge of our Christian faith? What's going to happen about our strength of knowledge about the proper role of government, which is there to protect our rights? The less we know about that, the more the power goes to secular government, big government, and not to the people. So I think people need to, we can have civil conversations with their friends and family, but we should have political and faith-related conversations with our friends and family. We need to sharpen our tools of knowledge and say, hey, does Governor Whitmer give us our rights, or were our rights given to us by our Creator? And how does government properly protect our rights, not give out our rights? Let's have those conversations and realize, these abuses of power. It's not just Whitmer's making bad decisions. She's operating unconstitutionally, and that's where the conversation needs to be.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree wholeheartedly. I have said for many years that this political correct movement is designed to silence people of faith. It is designed to silence those grassroots patriotic leaders. And what has happened is we have all given it away because we don't want to talk about politics. We don't want to talk about religion. We don't want to offend anybody. So we've all shut up and sit down. Meanwhile, they bulldoze right over us with whatever they want to do and say, right? That's very unethical and immoral and downright unlawful. So I've been challenging people. And I think what we're going to see happen with this grassroots insurgents really is that people are fed up. And I've been telling people on our platform, it is time to stand up. No more sitting down and cowering in the corner. It is time to speak up, and it is time to fight fire with fire. No, Biden, we're all not all just going to get along. we're going to stand up and we're going to take it back, because it's time that we fight fire with fire. It's time we start talking about our faith, our beliefs. I get in trouble for talking about politics and business. And I tell people, economies, policies drive economies. Economies are based on policies. Why are we afraid to talk about politics with business? Those two things cannot be separated. So it's time that we start talking and educating people about the realities, that we shouldn't separate faith from politics, business from politics. They're all interchangeable. And the left knows this, which is why the political correct movement has been very successful. It was designed to keep us quiet, to shut us up, and it worked.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
If you everything's tied into politics, okay? And as believers, we need more people of faith to run for office, because first of all, it can be, we need people, okay? If you look at the arena in which we lose our Judeo-Christian values, imagine the Roman Colosseum, okay? Picture that in your mind right now, okay? That is the arena of politics, is where we lose our Judeo-Christian values. So we need more gladiators fighting on that floor of politics to protect what we hold near and dear to our hearts. And I've got to get going here in a couple minutes, but I want to leave with something positive. You asked us what our plans are the next couple of years in the legislature. I introduced a couple of bills last year to get rid of our plate tabs. Wouldn't it be nice not to ever have to worry about a plate tab or putting a plate sticker on your license plate anymore? So I'll be reintroducing those bills. Hopefully we can get bipartisan support in that. These license plate tabs were designed for a time many years ago where we didn't have radios or computers in police officers' cars. We really don't need them anymore. And there's been a couple of states that have gotten rid of them. And incidentally, that'll cut down the lines of Secretary of State. It'll probably take about 30 to 40% of the traffic out of our Secretary of State offices too. So that's one of my legislative goals the next couple of years.
That is terrific. And I just wanted to say to everybody, we're going to continue with these at least on a monthly, sometimes a bi-monthly basis based on information that's out there. It's important that we have this dialogue, that you see these individuals for what they are, individuals who are fighting for the same things we are. Not every one of them, but I can tell you these caucuses are getting stronger. But they're stronger because of you. They're stronger because of the fact that you're standing up, that you're speaking the truth, that you're defending what you believe in. But do not sit back. And I truly believe there are always a silver lining. When Trump did not win this election, or I should say when it was taken from him, when these things happened, it still now forced us to be angrier and to be active. I wonder how many of us would have settled back into relaxation and comfort for the next 2 or 4 years when Trump couldn't run again if we hadn't had happened what happened today. And Trump made the comment the night before the election. He said, this is not again about me as an individual. It's not about Donald Trump. It is about the country. It is about what he believes in and what it is he's defending. Those same principles remain today, and he remains the same today, and as committed as he ever was. He's going to stay active in Republican politics, and that is vital to us moving forward. But understand, he's an engine. He's an engine to fire us up, but you have to do the work, and we have to start local doing it. It isn't going to happen from Washington, D.C. It's going to happen from your city or your community, and we've got to change things going forward, and I appreciate all of your time. Tammy, why don't you wrap it up for us?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you both, Matt and Steve, for being with us. Listen, guys, I just want to let you know, I've been very concerned about this new Patriot Party. I'm very happy to see that President Trump is staying in there and he's fighting, because had we had a three-party system, we truly would have divided and we would have given the Democrats a win every single time. Yeah. So while your House members are working on election integrity reform, remember to see the big picture, right? See things from a bigger picture, not just from your, I'm so angry right now. I get it, but we've got to fix what's broken. We don't want to go start something new that will ensure a win to the other side every single time. So let's all fight and work together. I'm telling you right now, we have a huge opportunity in front of us. Yes. I'm actually kind of excited because I look at this like, what a moment in time in history. We have an opportunity to change things right now. So I'm excited about working with both of you, making, being change agents. That's what we are right now. Those of us alive and kicking and breathing that God put on this earth right now, we are to be change agents. And so I'm really excited to work with you guys to see what the Lord does through all of us.
Amen.
And instead of just being enraged, it's time to get engaged. I heard somebody say that the other day,
Yes.
and that's exactly what we got to do is we got to flip that and get busy.
I like that.
All right. I appreciate your time, everybody. Thanks again. Everybody share this video and go to our website, standupmichigan.com, sign up specifically so that you can join our county. It gives you options there. It's Stand Up Counties. The link is right there on the homepage. Scroll down a little bit and join and share this this YouTube video, and or you can see it on our public figure platforms as well. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk soon.
Thanks.